The sky above the battlefield was dark and full of fire. Explosions lit up the clouds as ships fought in the air. On the ground, soldiers ran between burning ruins, their weapons firing fast. Among them was Jake Daniels, a human soldier from Earth. He was tired and scared, but he kept moving forward. He had to survive. Jake's squad had been attacked by an enemy he had never seen before. These aliens were fierce and strong. They came from a faraway part of the galaxy, and they wanted to take over every planet they could. Jake and his team had been sent to stop them, but now they were trapped. Jake crouched behind a broken wall, catching his breath. His suit was scratched, and his gun was almost out of ammo. Around him, his friends were falling one by one. The enemy was closing in fast. Jake knew this could be the end. "Come on, come on," Jake whispered to himself. He looked up at the sky, where the stars were just beginning to shine through the smoke. He closed his eyes for a moment. I wish this war would just end." The words were soft, almost like a prayer. Jake didn't know why he said it out loud. He only wanted peace. He wanted the fighting to stop so no more people would get hurt. Suddenly, a strange light flashed across the sky. It was bright and warm, like the sun on a cold day. Jake opened his eyes and saw something he couldn't explain. A small glowing shape flew past him and disappeared into the clouds. For a moment, everything was quiet. The enemy stopped moving. The sounds of battle faded away. Jake looked around, confused. Was it a trick? Was it a dream? Then, from the sky, a voice spoke in his mind. It was calm and kind, but very powerful. "Your wish has been heard." Jake's heart beat fast. He didn't know what to say. He just stared at the dark sky, hoping this was the start of something good. Far away, in the shining palace of the Nebulon Empire, Princess Lyra sat on her throne. She was the most beautiful alien in the galaxy, with shining blue skin and eyes that looked like stars. She was proud and strong, but today she felt strange. Lyra touched her stomach and gasped. Something inside her was changing. She was pregnant, but she had never been near any other being before. How was this possible? Her advisors were shocked when she told them. They said it was a sign from the gods, but some feared it was dangerous. The Nebulon people had never seen anything like this. Back on the battlefield, Jake stood up. The fight was over. The enemy had vanished without a trace. He looked at the sky one last time and whispered, "Maybe this is just the beginning." The news spread quickly across the Nebulon Empire. Princess Lyra, the most beautiful and respected figure in the galaxy, was pregnant. This was something no one had ever seen before. The Nebulon people were curious and worried at the same time. In the Grand Palace, Lyra sat quietly, thinking about what was happening. She had always been strong and sure of herself, but now she felt unsure. How could this happen? Who was the father of her child? The answer was a mystery even to her. Her closest friend and advisor, Terrell, entered the room. "Princess, the people are talking. Some believe this is a miracle. Others think it could bring trouble," he said carefully. Lyra looked up, her eyes shining with determination. "I don't know what this means yet, but I will protect my child and my people," she said firmly. Far away, on a small ship drifting through space, Jake Daniels was still trying to understand what had happened. The battle was over, but his mind was full of questions. The strange light, the voice, the wish, all felt unreal. He sat alone in the cockpit, staring at the stars. Was my wish the cause of this? Am I connected to Princess Lyra somehow? Jake whispered to himself. Suddenly, his ship beeped loudly. A message appeared on the screen. It was from the Nebulon Empire, an invitation for him to come and explain himself. Jake's heart raced. He never imagined that a simple wish could lead to this. But now he had to go. He had to find answers. Back on Nebulon, the royal scientists were busy studying Lyra. They ran many tests, but could not explain the pregnancy. Lyra's body was changing in ways no one had seen before. The baby inside her seemed healthy and strong. The scientists shared their findings with the Emperor, Lyra's father. He was both proud and worried. The child could change everything in the galaxy. "I want to meet the father," the Emperor said firmly. "This is no ordinary child." Meanwhile, rumors began to spread among the people. Some said the baby was a sign of hope, a new beginning for humans and Nebulons to live together. Others feared it could bring war. Lyra listened to the voices around her but stayed calm. She knew she needed to be strong. The future of her people might depend on her choices. Jake prepared his ship for the long journey to Nebulon. He packed his few belongings and took a deep breath. He was ready to face whatever awaited him. As his ship moved through space, Jake looked out the window. The stars seemed brighter now, as if they were watching him. He felt a new purpose growing inside, a hope that maybe his wish would bring peace, not just for him, but for the whole galaxy. At the same time, on Nebulon, Lyra stood on the palace balcony, looking at the stars. She whispered softly, "Whatever comes, I will protect this child. Together, we will change the future." The grand hall of the Nebulon Palace was filled with light and silence. Nobles, advisors, and leaders from across the empire had gathered. The news of Princess Lyra's pregnancy had reached everyone, and now the emperor was ready to speak. Standing tall on his throne, Emperor Zephan looked at the crowd. His face was serious but calm. "My people," he began, "today I bring you news that will change our future." The room leaned in, waiting for his words. "My daughter, Princess Lyra, is with child. This child is a miracle, one that has never been seen in our history." Gasps and whispers spread through the crowd. No Nebulon had ever been pregnant without a mate, and certainly not in this way. The emperor raised his hand for silence. "We do not know how this happened, but we will protect the princess and her child. This child may bring new strength and hope to our empire." In the back of the room, some faces looked worried. Not everyone trusted the unknown. A few nobles whispered about power and danger, fearing what this child could mean for their positions. Lyra stood quietly near her father. She felt the weight of the moment, but also a new sense of purpose. "I am proud to carry this child," she said softly, "and I will do everything to keep peace and protect our people." The announcement was broadcast across the empire. Everywhere, Nebulons stopped their work to listen. The people had many questions. Some were hopeful, dreaming of peace with humans. Others were afraid of change. Far from Nebulon, Jake Daniels was preparing to meet the royal court. His ship moved closer to the glowing planet. He knew the emperor would want answers. Jake felt a mix of fear and hope. In his heart, Jake hoped this meeting would bring understanding, not conflict. He wanted to explain what had happened, but he also worried about what the Nebulons might think of him. When Jake's ship landed, he was greeted by guards who led him to the palace. The halls were tall and shining, filled with strange symbols and bright colors. Jake was brought before the emperor and Princess Lyra. The room was silent except for their footsteps. Emperor Zephan studied Jake carefully. "You are the one connected to my daughter's child," he said calmly. Jake nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty. I don't fully understand what happened. I made a wish during the battle. And then, this." Lyra looked at Jake with curiosity and hope. "We need to understand this together," she said. The emperor nodded slowly. "We will. But know this, many will watch us. This child is a symbol of change, and that brings both hope and danger." Jake and Lyra exchanged looks. Both knew their journey was just beginning. The future was uncertain, but they would face it side by side. Jake sat in a quiet room inside the Nebulon Palace. The walls were smooth and glowing softly. He looked out a large window at the sparkling city below. It was so different from Earth. The stars here felt closer, and the air was filled with strange sounds. Jake's mind was full of questions. How did his wish create this connection with Princess Lyra? Was it just luck, or something more? Terrell, Lyra's trusted advisor, entered the room. "Jake, the wish you made was not an ordinary one," he said calmly. It came from an ancient power that watches over the galaxy. It hears the deepest desires of those who fight for peace. Jake raised his eyebrows. An ancient power? You mean like magic? Terrell smiled slightly. Not exactly magic. It is a force that balances life. It chose you and Princess Lyra to bring hope to the galaxy. Your child is a symbol of unity. Jake felt a mix of wonder and doubt. So I'm supposed to be a hero just because I said a wish? Terrell shook his head. No, the hero is the one who chooses to face the future, no matter how uncertain it is. At that moment, Lyra entered the room. Her blue eyes shone with determination. Jake, I want you to know this is not just about me or the baby. It is about the future of our people. Jake looked at her and felt a strong connection, more than just the strange link through the child. I want to help, Lyra. I don't fully understand all of this, but I know one thing. Peace is worth fighting for. Lyra nodded. We will face many challenges. There are those in my empire who fear change. They may try to stop us. Jake's expression grew serious. Then we fight, not just with weapons, but with trust and respect. The two talked late into the night, sharing stories of their worlds. Jake told Lyra about Earth, about the wars humans had faced, and their hope to explore the stars. Lyra shared the history of the Nebulans, their culture, and their dreams for a peaceful future. As dawn approached, Jake realized how much this connection meant. It was more than a wish or a strange event. It was a chance to build something new. A future where humans and Nebulans could stand together. Suddenly, the palace alarm rang loudly. Guards rushed in. There is trouble outside, Terrell said quickly. Some nobles are unhappy with the announcement. They plan to challenge the princess. Jake and Lyra exchanged a glance. The fight was not over. Lyra stood tall. Then we must show them the strength of unity. Jake nodded, ready to stand by her side. Together, they prepared to face the storm that was coming. A storm not just of weapons, but of fear and doubt. But deep inside, they both believed this was the moment their galaxy needed. The great hall of the Nebulan Palace buzzed with tension. Nobles from across the empire filled the room, their faces showing worry and curiosity. They had come to see the human soldier, Jake Daniels, the man linked to their princess and her mysterious child. Jake stood tall, feeling out of place in the shining hall. His military uniform was plain compared to the rich robes around him. Yet he held his head high. He was here to explain himself and to find a way forward. Princess Lyra stood beside him, calm and proud. Her blue skin glowed softly under the lights. She had gained respect with her courage and kindness, but the room was still full of doubt. The Emperor spoke first. Today, we face a new challenge. This child, unborn but already powerful, has brought two worlds together. Jake Daniels, tell us your story. Jake took a deep breath. I am a soldier from Earth. During a battle, I was desperate and wished for peace. I didn't expect anything to happen, but somehow my wish connected me to Princess Lyra and her child. A murmur spread through the crowd. Some looked amazed, others skeptical. One noblewoman stepped forward. How can we trust a human? They are strangers to us. How do we know this child will not bring danger? Lyra raised her hand. I carry this child, and I trust Jake. We will protect our people together. This child is a symbol of hope, not fear. Jake nodded. I understand your worries, but I promise I want peace just like you do. I want to help build a future where humans and Nebulans live without war. Another noble, a man with sharp eyes, spoke next. Words are easy, soldier. Actions will prove your truth. Jake met his gaze firmly. Then let me show you. Let me help your people. The Emperor watched quietly. Finally, he spoke. This meeting is the first step. We will give Jake a chance to prove himself. But know this, many will watch closely, and not all will welcome change. Lyra smiled gently. Change is never easy, but it is needed. After the meeting, Jake and Lyra walked through the palace gardens. The bright flowers smelled sweet in the cool air. Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but also hope. "Do you think they will accept me?" Jake asked quietly. Lyra looked at him with kindness. "They must learn. Trust grows with time. Together, we can show them the strength of unity." Jake smiled. "I never thought a wish could bring me here, to a palace so far from home." Lyra laughed softly. Sometimes, the smallest words change the universe. As they stood under the stars, Jake and Lyra felt the first true connection between their worlds. It was fragile, but real. Far away, in the shadows, some nobles watched with dark eyes. Not everyone wanted peace. The future was still uncertain. But Jake and Lyra were ready to face whatever came next, together. The palace was quiet as Jake and Lyra sat together in the royal library. Tall shelves filled with glowing books surrounded them. The soft light made the room feel calm and safe, a perfect place to learn. Lyra opened an ancient book that told stories of the galaxy's old powers. "There are forces older than the stars," she said softly. "Forces that watch over life and balance." Jake listened carefully. "You think one of those forces answered my wish?" Lyra nodded. "Yes. The wish you made was heard by a cosmic force called the Celestial Harmony. It acts to bring peace when the galaxy faces great danger." Jake stared. "So it chose me and you?" "Yes," Lyra said. "It united us through the child. The baby is not just a symbol. It holds power to change the future." Jake felt a new weight in his chest. This was bigger than he thought. "Why me?" he asked. Lyra smiled gently. "Because you wished for peace with hope in your heart. The harmony responds to true desire, not fear or hate." They spent hours reading the ancient stories. They learned that the celestial harmony had acted before in history, bringing together enemies to create new alliances and stronger futures. Suddenly, a shadow moved in the hallway. Terrell appeared, his face serious. "There are those in the court who want to use the child's power for themselves," he warned. "They see this as a way to gain control." Lyra's eyes darkened. "We must protect the child and the hope it brings." Jake clenched his fists. "Then we need a plan." Together, they began to think of ways to guard the child and the peace it symbolized. They knew the road ahead would be full of danger, but also full of hope. That night, Jake looked at the stars from the palace balcony. He thought about Earth, his home, and the war he had fought. Now he had a new fight, one for peace and unity. Lyra joined him, standing close. "This is our chance to change the galaxy," she said, "not with weapons, but with courage and trust." Jake nodded. "I'm ready." Far away, hidden in the shadows, a group of nobles whispered. They planned to challenge the princess and take the child for their own power. But Jake and Lyra would not let that happen. Together, they held the secret of the wish, a secret that could save or break the galaxy. The palace was alive with whispers and shadows. The news of Princess Lyra's pregnancy had stirred strong feelings. Some nobles were excited, seeing hope. Others were angry and afraid of change. In a dark room, a group of nobles met in secret. Their leader, Lord Varric, was a tall man with cold eyes. "This child is a threat to our power," he said. "If we do not act, the empire will change forever." His followers nodded. They planned to challenge the princess and take control of the child. "We must show the emperor that Lyra's choice is dangerous." Meanwhile, in the palace gardens, Jake and Lyra walked carefully. They knew the nobles were unhappy. "They fear what they do not understand." Lyra said softly, "We must be stronger than their fear." Jake looked at her. "How do we stop them?" "We show them unity," Lyra answered. "We must bring our people together, not divide them." Back in the throne room, the emperor held a council meeting. Leaders from across the empire gathered, their faces serious. "We face a choice," the Emperor said. "Protect the future or let fear control us." Lord Varric stood and spoke loudly. "The princess's child is unnatural. It threatens the traditions of our people." Other nobles murmured in agreement. The room grew tense. Lyra stepped forward. "I understand your fears, but this child is not a threat. It is a promise of peace between humans and Nebulons." Jake added, "I come from Earth, a place that has seen war and hope. This child is a chance for both our peoples to find peace." The Emperor nodded slowly. "We will protect Lyra and her child. But we must also listen to all voices, even those of fear." Outside, the city was restless. Some people gathered, worried about what the future held. Others hoped for peace and change. Jake and Lyra held meetings with leaders and citizens. They spoke about trust and courage. Slowly, some began to believe in their vision. But Lord Varric's group grew stronger. They spread rumors and fear, trying to turn people against the princess. One night, Jake and Lyra found a message in the palace, a warning to stay away from the child. Lyra's eyes burned with determination. "They want to scare us. We cannot let them win." Jake took her hand. "We will protect our future, together." The storm was coming, but they stood ready. The fight was no longer only about a child, but about the soul of the empire. As the stars shone overhead, Jake and Lyra prepared for the battles ahead. Battles of trust, hope, and unity. The palace was calm in the early morning light. Princess Lyra stood in her private garden, touching her growing belly. The child inside her moved gently, a quiet reminder of the future they all hoped for. Jake joined her, carrying a small box of gifts from Earth. "I brought things for the baby," he said with a soft smile. Lyra looked at him gratefully. "Thank you, Jake. Every day I feel stronger because of you." Together, they talked about what the future might bring. "This child will change everything," Jake said. "Not just for Nebulans, but for humans too." Lyra nodded. "We must prepare. The Empire needs to understand and accept this new beginning." They decided to invite leaders from both species to a special gathering. It would be a chance to share hopes, fears, and dreams. In the palace, the staff worked to prepare. Decorations were hung, and messages were sent across the stars. The event was meant to bring peace and unity. Meanwhile, Jake practiced speaking the Nebulon language. He wanted to connect better with the people and show respect for their culture. Lyra helped him, laughing softly when he made mistakes. "You're doing well," she said. "It means a lot to everyone." The day of the gathering arrived. Leaders from many planets came, some curious, others cautious. Jake stood before the crowd, feeling nervous but determined. "We are not so different," he said. "We all want peace, safety, and a better future for our children." Lyra's voice followed. "This child is a symbol of hope, a new path for us to walk together." The crowd listened closely. Some faces softened, and whispers of approval grew. But not everyone was convinced. Lord Varric and his followers watched from the side, their expressions cold. After the speeches, people mingled, sharing stories and ideas. Jake and Lyra spoke with many, answering questions and building trust. That night, as the stars twinkled outside, Jake and Lyra sat quietly. "It's a good start," Lyra said, "but we must stay strong." Jake nodded. "The future is uncertain, but with each step, we grow closer." The child inside Lyra moved again, as if sensing the hope around. Together, they prepared for the day the baby would be born, a day that would change the galaxy forever. The palace was quiet and still. The stars shone brightly in the night sky, watching over the Nebulon Empire. Inside the royal chambers, Princess Lyra was ready. The moment she had waited for was near, the birth of her child. Jake sat beside her, holding her hand tightly. His heart raced with both excitement and worry. He looked at Lyra's calm face and smiled softly. "We are ready for this," he whispered. Lyra nodded. Yes, this child will bring hope, not just for us, but for everyone. The royal doctors and healers worked carefully, their hands gentle and sure. The room was filled with quiet sounds, the soft breathing of the princess, the gentle beeping of machines, and the whispered prayers of the healers. Outside, in the palace, the people waited anxiously. The news had spread across the empire. The child of the human soldier and the Nebulon princess was about to be born. Suddenly, a cry echoed through the chamber, strong and clear. The baby had arrived. Everyone in the room smiled with relief and joy. Lyra looked at the small child in her arms. The baby's skin had a soft glow, a beautiful mix of human warmth and Nebulon light. Jake reached out and gently touched the child's tiny hand. "Welcome to the universe," he said softly. The Emperor entered the room, his face full of pride. "This child is a symbol of hope and unity. Together, we will build a better future." As word of the birth spread, celebrations began throughout the empire. People sang songs and shared stories of peace and friendship. But even in the joy, Jake and Lyra knew there would be challenges ahead. The child's life would not be easy. Some would still fear change and try to bring harm. Lyra held the baby close. "We will protect them, no matter what." Jake nodded. "Together, we can face anything." That night, under the watchful stars, a new chapter began. The child was not just a symbol. They were the future. The sun rose slowly over the Nebulon Empire, casting golden light across the palace and city. The birth of the princess's child had changed everything. The galaxy was watching, waiting to see what would come next. Jake Daniels stood beside Princess Lyra on a balcony overlooking the crowd gathered below. People from many planets had come to celebrate peace and unity. Flags flew high, and music filled the air. Lyra smiled softly, her hand resting on the child's small cradle nearby. "This is the start of something new," she said. Jake nodded. "A future where humans and Nebulans stand together, not as enemies, but as friends." The Emperor stepped forward, raising his hand for silence. "Today we welcome a new era. This child is a symbol of hope, courage, and strength. Together, we will build a galaxy where all species can live in peace." The crowd cheered loudly, their voices echoing through the city. But beyond the celebrations, Jake and Lyra knew the work had just begun. The road to peace was long and difficult. Some still doubted, and some still feared change. Lyra looked at Jake, determination shining in her eyes. "We must keep working. We must be examples of trust and friendship." Jake smiled. "I'm ready for whatever comes next." In the following weeks, Jake and Lyra traveled together, visiting different planets, meeting leaders and citizens. They shared their story and listened to others. Slowly, walls of fear began to fall. Their child grew stronger every day, a living symbol of what could be achieved when differences were set aside. One evening, as they watched the stars from the palace garden, Jake spoke quietly. "Do you think the galaxy is ready for this change?" Lyra looked up, her eyes shining. "It will be. Because hope is stronger than fear." The stars twinkled above, as if agreeing. Together, Jake, Lyra, and their child stood ready to face the future. A future where peace was possible, and humanity could shine across the stars. The galaxy had changed forever, all because a human soldier made a simple wish.